Prologue: The Forgotten Road. In the heart of Europe, where forests grew thick and fog clung to the hills like a shroud, there existed a road few dared to travel. It was not marked on any modern map, though whispers of its existence could be found in ancient texts and local legends. Known only as mile marker 666, this stretch of winding asphalt twisted through valleys long abandoned by time, cutting through villages that had vanished without explanation. No one knew who had built it or when. Some said it was an old Roman road, repurposed centuries ago by travelers seeking passage through the mountains. Others claimed it was cursed from the beginning, constructed atop a burial ground for something far older than human history. Whatever the truth, those who ventured onto mile marker 666 rarely returned, and those who did were never quite the same. The road itself seemed to shift. Drivers reported landmarks changing overnight, signs vanishing into the mist, and strange symbols carved into the trees lining the path. Some spoke of hearing voices whispering from the woods, calling their names in languages they didn't understand. Others described headlights appearing in the distance, only to find no car when they reached the spot. And then there were the disappearances, entire families lost in a single night, their homes left untouched but empty, their belongings still neatly arranged as if they had merely stepped outside and never come back. Local authorities refused to acknowledge the road's existence, dismissing reports as urban legends or hallucinations brought on by exhaustion and fear. But deep in the countryside, elders still warned children not to wander too far, lest they stumble upon the forbidden path. There were stories of a red mile marker hidden deep in the forest, half buried beneath roots and moss, bearing the ominous number 666. Those who saw it never forgot it. And those who touched it, well, they were never seen again. It was said that at midnight, on certain nights when the sky turned blacker than ink and the wind howled with unnatural fury, something stirred along mile marker 666. A presence. A hunger. Something waiting just beyond the veil of reality, waiting for someone foolish enough to follow the road all the way to its end. And so, the legend endured. A warning passed down through generations, buried beneath folklore and superstition. But warnings are often ignored. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. And sometimes, the past refuses to stay buried. Soon, someone would walk that road again. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 1. The journey begins. The engine of the silver sedan hummed softly as it rolled down the winding country road. Rain drizzled against the windshield, blurring the landscape into streaks of gray and green. Inside the car, four young adults sat in varying states of silence and conversation, their journey having already lasted longer than expected. "I swear, we've passed that same sign 3 times, Elena muttered, peering out the window at a rusted wooden post barely visible through the fog. "We're going in circles." Beside her, Daniel scoffed. "Come on, don't start with that. We just took a wrong turn somewhere. GPS says we're close." GPS also said we'd reached the town 10 minutes ago, she shot back, arms crossed over her chest. "And since when does GPS even work out here? We haven't had a signal in hours." From the driver's seat, Marcus adjusted his grip on the steering wheel. "I told you guys this place doesn't show up on maps. I read about it online, this whole area is basically forgotten land. No towns, no gas stations, just miles and miles of nothing. And yet we decided to drive through it, Elena grumbled. Seated in the back, Lillian leaned forward between the two front seats. You didn't have to come, you know. This is supposed to be an adventure. A little mystery adds to the excitement. Elena frowned. Mystery? More like madness. Did you see those trees back there? They looked like they were twisted on purpose. They're just old, Marcus said dismissively, though his voice lacked conviction. Lillian smirked. Or maybe they remember something. Daniel let out a short laugh. Great. Now we're quoting horror movies. The car fell into a brief silence, save for the soft patter of rain against the roof. Then, almost imperceptibly, the air inside the car changed. The warmth from the heater faded, replaced by a creeping chill that settled into their bones. Breaths began to mist slightly despite the lack of open windows. Weird, Marcus muttered. Did the heater break? No, Elena whispered, eyes darting around the cabin. Something's off. They drove on, deeper into the mist-covered wilderness. The road ahead seemed to stretch endlessly, flanked by towering pines whose branches arched overhead like skeletal fingers. The further they went, the more the world outside felt wrong. The colors dulled, the light dimmed unnaturally, and the very air carried a sense of weight, as though pressing down on them. Then, just as Daniel was about to speak, Marcus slammed on the brakes. "What the hell?" he exclaimed. A wooden sign stood at the roadside, half buried in moss and dirt. The paint had long since faded, but the numbers were still legible. Mile marker 666. Everyone stared at it, stunned into silence. "That can't be real," Lillian whispered. "It's probably just some prank," Daniel said quickly, though his voice betrayed uncertainty. Marcus exhaled sharply. "We should turn back." But before he could put the car in reverse, the headlights flickered once, twice, and then died completely. Darkness swallowed them. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 2. The mist thickens. Inside the car, the sudden darkness was suffocating. No streetlights lined the desolate road, no moonlight pierced the dense canopy above. Only the sound of rain tapping gently on the roof filled the silence. "Okay, what the hell?" Daniel broke the quiet, fumbling with the dashboard controls. "Did we run out of gas?" "No," Marcus answered, voice tight. "Everything was fine a second ago." Lillian reached for the door handle. "Maybe we should check the engine." "No," Elena snapped, grabbing her wrist. "We don't leave the car." Daniel gave her a skeptical look. "Why not?" "Because," she said, nodding toward the windshield. "Look." Outside, the fog had thickened. What had been a gentle mist moments ago now swirled like living tendrils, curling and shifting as if drawn toward the vehicle. The trees beyond the road were nearly invisible, their outlines blurred and distorted by the unnatural haze. "This isn't normal," Elena murmured. Marcus turned the key in the ignition. Nothing. He tried again. Still, the engine remained silent. "All right, that's it," Daniel said, pushing open his door. "I'm checking under the hood." "Daniel." He was already stepping out into the cold. The moment his feet hit the wet pavement, the rain stopped. Not lessened. Not slowed. Stopped entirely. He froze mid-step, blinking rapidly as droplets ceased falling from the sky. The rhythmic pattering against the roof halted abruptly, leaving behind an eerie hush. "Guys," he called, voice low. The others leaned forward, peering out the windows. "There's no rain," Marcus muttered. Lillian pushed open her own door cautiously. "That's impossible." Daniel stepped away from the car, looking up. The sky above was dark, but the clouds were unmoving, frozen in place. Even the wind had stilled. "Hello?" he called out, his voice echoing unnaturally. No response. Just then, a faint creaking noise came from the trees ahead. Slowly, deliberately, the branches of the nearest pine bent inward, as if pulled by unseen hands. His breath caught in his throat. Anyone else seeing this? Back in the car, Elena pressed her forehead to the glass, eyes wide. Yes. Yes, we see it. The branches continued to bend until they formed a narrow archway in the tree line. Beyond it, the fog parted slightly, revealing a path that hadn't been there before. A path leading deeper into the woods. "Is that new?" Lillian asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel backed away slowly. "I think we should go." As if in answer, the headlights suddenly flickered back to life. The engine roared to life with a jolt. "Get in!" Marcus shouted. Daniel scrambled back into his seat, slamming the door shut just as Marcus slammed his foot on the accelerator. The tires spun briefly in the mud before gripping the road, sending the car lurching forward. Behind them, the mist closed in once more, swallowing the strange archway as if it had never existed. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 3, Whispers in the Fog. The car sped down the road, tires kicking up water and mud as the engine growled in protest. No one spoke. No one even breathed normally. All eyes were fixed ahead, searching desperately for signs of civilization, of safety, of anything familiar. But the road stretched on, endless and unchanged. After several tense minutes, Marcus finally exhaled. Okay, we're moving again. That's good. Good. Elena snapped, glaring at him. We just saw trees move on their own. They didn't move, Daniel corrected, rubbing his temples. They bent. Like something pulled them. Lillian, who had been silent, finally spoke. What if they did pull them? Daniel blinked at her. What? She shrugged, though her expression was serious. I mean, what if whatever lives out here wanted us to see that? Wanted us to notice? Elena shook her head. That's insane. Is it? Lillian countered. Because everything about this place feels wrong. The silence, the fog, the way the air feels heavier the farther we go. Marcus glanced at her through the rearview mirror. So what are you saying? That something out there wants us. Lillian hesitated, then nodded slowly. Maybe. The atmosphere in the car shifted, thickening with unspoken dread. No one wanted to say it aloud, but each of them was thinking the same thing. Turning back wasn't an option anymore. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. Static filled the cabin, followed by a faint, garbled voice. "Help us, please." Everyone froze. "Who the hell is that?" Daniel whispered. The voice continued, distorted and distant. "Don't trust the road, it remembers." Elena reached for the dial, trying to adjust the frequency, but the static remained constant. "Turn it off," she urged. "I am." Marcus snapped, twisting the knob. "It's not responding." The voice grew clearer, though still warped by interference. 666, the gate is open, come closer. A chill ran down their spines. Then, another voice joined the first, overlapping and multiplying until it sounded like a chorus of whispers filling the car. "Run, run while you still can." The headlights flickered again. This time, they stayed off. Darkness swallowed them whole. The engine sputtered. "No, no, no." Marcus cursed, slamming the dashboard. "Come on, don't do this again." The car lurched violently, then coasted to a stop. Silence. Complete and utter silence. No rain. No wind. No engine. Just the sound of their shallow breathing. Then, from outside, came a slow, deliberate knock on the driver's side window. All four of them screamed. Marcus yanked the door open and stumbled out, drawing in sharp breaths of icy air. The others followed suit, backing away from the car as if it might vanish into the mist. The knocking came again. Only now, they realized, it wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from the trunk. Daniel's face paled. "Tell me someone opened the trunk earlier." "I didn't," Elena said quickly. "Neither did I," Lillian added. Marcus shook his head. "Then who?" Before he could finish, the trunk lid popped open with a metallic clang. They all stared at it, frozen. Inside, nestled among their luggage and supplies, was a small, rusted metal box. None of them recognized it. None of them remembered packing it. Lillian reached for it cautiously. "Don't touch it," Elena hissed. But it was too late. The moment Lillian's fingers brushed the surface, the box hissed, releasing a thin plume of black smoke that curled into the air like a serpent. The fog around them thickened instantly, swallowing their surroundings. And then, the whispers started again. Only this time, they weren't coming from the radio. They were coming from everywhere. "Welcome. Finally. You belong here. Join us." The voices surrounded them, closing in like a tightening vice. Daniel grabbed Elena's arm. "We need to move. Now." But before they could take a step, the mist parted just enough to reveal something standing at the edge of the road. A figure. Tall and slender, wrapped in tattered fabric that fluttered despite the still air. Its face was obscured, but they could feel its gaze boring into them. Watching. Waiting. And then, in a voice that was neither male nor female, it spoke. "You have reached mile marker 666. The box in Lillian's hand clicked. And the world around them shifted. Underscore 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 underscore. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 4, Shadows Among the Trees. The group stood frozen, staring at the tall figure in tattered robes. Its presence was impossibly still, as if it had always been there, waiting for them to arrive. The fog coiled around its form like smoke, obscuring most of its features, but they could feel its gaze, cold, calculating, and utterly inhuman. Lillian clutched the rusted box tighter, her knuckles white. What is that? No one answered. No one could. The figure tilted its head ever so slightly, as if amused by their fear. Then, in a voice that echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once, it spoke again. You have come far. But the road is not finished with you. The word sent a shiver down Elena's spine. She forced herself to take a step back, pulling Daniel with her. We're getting out of here. The figure didn't move, but somehow, it loomed closer. You cannot leave. You are part of the path now. Marcus clenched his fists, forcing himself to speak. What do you want from us? The figure raised an arm, pointing past them toward the road. The fog parted slightly, revealing something they hadn't noticed before, a narrow trail winding into the trees, barely visible beneath layers of moss and rotting leaves. Follow the path, the figure intoned. See what lies beyond. Daniel swallowed hard. Like hell we are. The figure didn't respond. Instead, the wind picked up, though none of them had heard it stir before. Leaves rustled, branches groaned, and the temperature dropped drastically in an instant. Then, the whispers returned. Go forward. There is no turning back. Step into the dark. Lillian let out a startled gasp as the box in her hands twitched, vibrating with an unseen force. The metal grew hot, burning her fingers. She dropped it immediately, and the moment it hit the ground, the whispers ceased. The figure turned its head sharply toward her, as if displeased. Then, without another word, it melted into the fog, vanishing as if it had never been there. For a long moment, the four of them simply stood there, hearts pounding, lungs struggling to draw in breath. Then Elena spoke, voice trembling. We need to get the hell out of here. Marcus nodded, already moving toward the car. Agreed. But as they approached, a new realization struck them. The car was gone. In its place stood a single, weathered mile marker. 666. The paint had peeled, revealing rusted metal beneath. Moss covered the base, and deep scratches marred its surface, scratches that looked eerily like claw marks. Lillian backed away. Where did the car go? Daniel ran a hand through his hair. This has to be some kind of trick. A hallucination. A dream. Elena grabbed his arm. Daniel, wake up. This is real. The wind howled again, louder this time, carrying with it the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, and coming from all directions. They turned in unison, scanning the foggy tree line. Nothing. Yet the feeling of being watched intensified. Then, from the shadows of the trees, something moved. At first, it was barely perceptible, a flicker of movement, a distortion in the mist. Then, gradually, figures began to emerge. They were humanoid, but wrong. Their limbs were too long, their joints bending in unnatural ways. Their faces, if they could be called that, were obscured by darkness, their features indistinct and shifting. One of them stepped forward, tilting its head like the tall figure had done. Then, in unison, the creatures hissed. Lost souls, wandering the path, forever. Elena grabbed Lillian's hand. We need to run. Daniel's voice cracked. Where? Indeed, there was nowhere to run. The road behind them had disappeared, swallowed by the mist. The only path forward was the narrow trail the figure had pointed to, the one winding into the trees. The creatures took another step closer. The wind howled louder. And the whispers returned, stronger than ever. Choose your fate. The path awaits. Step forward, or be taken. Marcus looked at the others, his face pale but resolute. We go together. No matter what. One by one, they turned toward the trail. And stepped into the darkness. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 5. The Hollow Path. The trail was narrower than it had appeared from the road, flanked on either side by gnarled trees whose roots twisted across the ground like skeletal fingers. The air was damp and heavy, carrying a scent reminiscent of decaying leaves and something else, something acrid and unnatural. As they walked, the fog clung to them, swirling in slow, deliberate motions, as if it had a mind of its own. No one spoke. No one dared. Each step forward felt like a descent into something far worse than mere darkness. The deeper they went, the more the world around them seemed to change. The trees grew taller, their trunks gnarled and scarred, their bark peeling away in strips that revealed something black and glistening beneath. The ground became softer, squelching beneath their feet as if soaked with something other than rainwater. Then, without warning, Lillian stumbled. She let out a sharp cry as her foot slipped into a patch of mud, dragging her down to her knees. She scrambled to pull herself free, but the earth held fast, as if reluctant to release her. Lillian. Daniel rushed to her side, grabbing her arm and yanking hard. She came free with a sickening pop, landing flat on her back beside the trail. Her jeans were soaked, and her hands were coated in thick, black sludge. She stared at them, horrified. What the hell is this? She whispered. Marcus knelt beside her, inspecting the substance clinging to her skin. He touched it tentatively with a fingertip, then recoiled immediately. It's warm, he muttered. And it smells like. He trailed off, unable, or unwilling, to finish the sentence. Elena knelt beside Lillian, helping her sit up. Are you hurt? Lillian shook her head, though her hands trembled. I don't think so. Daniel wiped his hands on his jacket, grimacing. Whatever this is, it's not normal. No kidding, Elena muttered. Lillian looked down at the trail where she had fallen. The mud was gone. In its place was a smooth patch of earth, as if nothing had happened. She swallowed hard. Let's keep moving. They rose to their feet and pressed on, though the incident left them shaken. The forest around them seemed to press in tighter, the trees leaning inward as if eavesdropping. Every now and then, they caught glimpses of movement in the periphery, shadows flickering just beyond the fog, but whenever they turned to look, there was nothing there. Then, Daniel noticed something. Wait, he said, stopping abruptly. The others halted, exchanging wary glances. What is it? Marcus asked. Daniel pointed ahead. The fog, it's thinning. Indeed, the dense mist that had enveloped them moments ago was beginning to lift, revealing something ahead, an opening in the trees, bordered by what looked like crumbling stone pillars. A gateway. Beyond it, the terrain changed. The trees thinned, giving way to a vast clearing bathed in an eerie, golden glow. The grass was unnaturally green, almost luminous, and scattered throughout the field were objects that made their blood run cold. Gravestones. Dozens of them, some upright, others toppled over or half buried in the earth. Some bore names, others were blank, their inscriptions worn away by time, or something else. Lillian's breath hitched. This place. It wasn't here before, Elena whispered. Marcus stepped forward cautiously, scanning the horizon. There's something else. They followed his gaze. Further ahead, past the graveyard, stood a structure, tall and angular, its silhouette stark against the unnatural light. It looked like a house, though its proportions were off, its angles too sharp, its walls too smooth. There were no windows, only a single black doorway set into the center of the facade. And above the entrance, etched into the stone, was a symbol. A circle bisected by a horizontal line. The mark of mile marker 666. Daniel took a step back. That's not possible. Elena gripped his arm. We have to go back. But as if sensing their hesitation, the fog behind them surged forward, sealing the path they had come from. The trees loomed closer, their branches twisting and writhing like grasping fingers. There was no turning back. Only forward. Lillian swallowed hard. We go in. No one argued. Together, they crossed the threshold into the graveyard, their footsteps muffled by the thick, glowing grass beneath them. The air grew heavier with each step, thick with the scent of decay and something else, something metallic, like blood. As they neared the house, the gravestones seemed to shift subtly, rearranging themselves as if aligning with their presence. Names became readable where before they had been obscured. Some bore dates from centuries ago. Others were recent. Too recent. Elena stopped abruptly, her breath catching in her throat. One of the stones read, Elena Marchetti. Born 1995, died 2024. Her own name. Her own death date. She staggered backward, eyes wide with horror. No, this is a joke. Someone carved this. Daniel knelt beside the grave, running his fingers over the inscription. It's not fresh. This stone has been here for years. Elena shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. This can't be real. Lillian stepped forward, her own expression stricken. Mine's here too. She pointed to another stone nearby. Lillian Ross. Born 1994, died 2024. Marcus's voice was barely audible. Mine too. Daniel swallowed hard and turned, scanning the graves until he found his. Daniel Kowalski. Born 1993, died 2024. Silence fell over them. The realization was undeniable. They were standing in their own graves. A gust of wind blew through the clearing, rattling the trees and sending a shiver through their spines. Then, from within the house, came a sound. A low, guttural groan. Like something waking up. The black door creaked open. And the darkness inside beckoned them forward. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 6. The House of Echoes. The door swung open slowly, its hinges creaking in protest. Beyond it lay an abyss of darkness so complete it seemed to devour the light. The air inside was stale, thick with the scent of damp wood and something more sinister, something old and dead. No one moved. No one spoke. The house loomed before them, its architecture defying logic. The walls were too smooth, the angles too sharp, as if the structure had been carved rather than built. There were no windows, no discernible source of light, yet the interior pulsed faintly, as though the building itself was alive. Elena's breath came in short, uneven bursts. We shouldn't go in. Daniel tightened his grip on her arm. We don't have a choice. Behind them, the graveyard remained eerily silent, but the fog had thickened once more, cutting off any chance of retreat. The trees beyond the clearing stood motionless, their branches unmoving despite the windless air. Lillian swallowed hard. If we go in, we stick together. No splitting up. Marcus nodded stiffly. Agreed. One by one, they stepped across the threshold. The moment Elena crossed the boundary, the door slammed shut behind them. They whirled around. The entrance was gone. Only a seamless wall of black stone remained. Panic surged through them. Lillian pressed a hand to the surface, feeling its unnatural coolness beneath her fingertips. It's solid. There's no handle, no seam. It's like it was never there. Daniel exhaled sharply. Great. Trapped in a haunted house with our own gravestones outside. Elena shot him a glare. Not helping. The room they stood in was vast, stretching into shadow in every direction. Faint illumination emanated from nowhere and everywhere, casting elongated silhouettes along the walls. The floor was smooth, reflective like polished obsidian, and every footstep echoed unnaturally, as if the space was amplifying their presence. Then, the whispering began. Soft at first, like the rustle of leaves in the wind. Then louder. Closer. You are home. Return to the path. Remember what was lost. The voices came from all around them, overlapping, merging into a cacophony of despair. Lillian clutched her arms. What the hell is that? Daniel scanned the darkness. It's in the walls. Elena turned to Marcus. We need to find another way out. He nodded, already moving forward. Stay close. They advanced cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the strange floor. The further they went, the more the architecture shifted. Doorways appeared where there had been none before. Staircases spiraled upward into unseen heights. Hallways branched off in impossible directions. And then, the walls began to bleed. Thick, black liquid oozed from the seams between the stones, dripping in slow, deliberate rivulets. The scent of iron filled the air, sharp and metallic. Lillian recoiled. Oh my God. Daniel wiped a hand across his face. This isn't real. This can't be real. Elena grabbed his wrist. Does it matter? We're here. They pressed on, navigating the labyrinthine corridors. Every turn led to another hallway, another staircase, another door that opened into something different each time. Sometimes, they emerged into rooms that mirrored their own memories, childhood bedrooms, familiar hallways, places they had lived but never expected to see again. Except these versions were wrong. Faded. Twisted. Their childhood homes were empty, stripped of furniture, their walls scorched and crumbling. The air inside was stale, filled with the scent of decay. And in every room, there was something watching them. Shadows that moved when no one else did. Reflections that lingered too long in mirrors. Figures standing at the edges of their vision, vanishing the moment they turned to look. Then, they found the first body. It lay sprawled across the floor of a narrow corridor, half submerged in the black fluid seeping from the walls. The corpse was bloated, its skin a sickly shade of blue-gray. Flies buzzed around its exposed flesh, though there were no windows, no openings for insects to enter. Lillian let out a strangled gasp. No. Marcus knelt beside the body, reaching out hesitantly. The moment his fingers brushed the skin, the corpse moved. Its mouth flew open in a silent scream, its jaw unhinging grotesquely. Black tendrils spilled from its throat, slithering toward Marcus like living worms. He recoiled with a shout, scrambling backward. The creature convulsed violently, then collapsed, lifeless once more. Elena pulled him to his feet. "We need to keep moving." They ran. Down corridors that twisted into infinity. Through doors that led to places they had never seen before. Past windows that showed landscapes that did not exist, mountains floating in the sky, oceans suspended upside down, cities that crumbled into dust before their eyes. And then, they reached the stairwell. It descended into darkness, the steps seemingly endless. The air grew colder with each step, thick with the scent of damp earth and rot. Halfway down, Lillian stopped. "I hear something." They all paused. From below came a rhythmic thud, like footsteps pacing back and forth. The sound was slow, deliberate, growing louder with each passing second. Daniel swallowed hard. "Someone's down there." Elena shook her head. "No. Not someone." The thudding stopped. Silence. Then, a voice, low, guttural, echoed from the depths. "You have come far, but the path is not yet finished." The voice was the same as the tall figures. And then, the darkness shifted. Something was climbing the stairs. Something massive. Something hungry. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 7. The Keeper of the Path. The darkness on the stairs began to move. A slow, deliberate shift, like something emerging from the void itself. The air grew heavier, charged with an oppressive energy that made their skin crawl. The rhythmic thudding resumed, but now it was accompanied by the sound of something dragging, long, scraping noises that sent chills racing down their spines. Elena grabbed Daniel's arm. "We need to go back." Marcus shook his head. "There's no going back." The whispering voices returned, rising in volume until they filled the entire stairwell. "The Keeper comes. Bow before the path. Offer yourself." The shadows coalesced into a towering shape, its form shifting between solidity and smoke. It was impossibly tall, its limbs elongated beyond natural proportions, its fingers ending in jagged claws that scraped against the stone steps as it ascended. Then, it spoke. Its voice was the same as before, deep, hollow, and filled with something ancient and unfathomable. You have reached the final threshold. The figure stepped into the dim light filtering from above, revealing itself fully. It was humanoid, but wrong in every conceivable way. Its body was draped in tattered robes that billowed despite the still air. Beneath the hood, there was no face, only a void, a swirling mass of darkness that seemed to pull at the very essence of those who looked upon it. Lillian took an involuntary step back, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. What are you?" The figure tilted its head. "I am the keeper of the path. Guardian of mile marker 666. Marcus tightened his grip on Elena's arm. "What do you want from us?" The keeper extended one clawed hand toward them. "You have come seeking answers. But knowledge demands sacrifice." Daniel swallowed hard. "What kind of sacrifice?" The keeper did not answer immediately. Instead, it lifted its other hand, and the shadows around them twisted. The walls of the stairwell began to dissolve, melting away into a vast, endless void. The air shimmered, distorting reality itself, until they found themselves standing in a new place entirely. They were in a chamber unlike anything they had seen before. The ceiling stretched infinitely upward, disappearing into a swirling mass of stars and smoke. The floor was a smooth, black surface that reflected their images with unsettling clarity. And surrounding them were mirrors. Dozens of them, arranged in a perfect circle, each one showing a different version of themselves. Elena's reflection wore a tattered wedding dress, her face pale and lifeless. Daniel stood in a hospital bed, tubes snaking from his arms, his eyes vacant. Lillian was kneeling in a church, clutching a rosary, her lips moving in silent prayer. Marcus was holding a rifle, standing in a battlefield littered with bodies. The reflections moved, mimicking their actions with slight delays, as if they were trapped in separate timelines. The keeper's voice echoed through the chamber. "These are the paths not taken. The lives you could have lived. The choices that shaped your fate." Lillian's voice trembled. "What does this mean?" The keeper stepped forward, its form shifting slightly. "You stand at the crossroads of destiny. To proceed, you must offer something of value." Elena narrowed her eyes. "Offer what?" The keeper raised its hand once more, and the mirrors shattered. Glass exploded outward in a violent burst, slicing through the air. The fragments hovered momentarily, reflecting distorted images of their faces, before dissolving into smoke. The chamber pulsed. And then, the keeper spoke again. "Your memories." Silence. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "What?" The keeper gestured toward the center of the chamber, where a pedestal had materialized from the void. Resting atop it was a single object, a black dagger, its blade humming with an unnatural energy. To pass, you must relinquish a memory. One that defines you. One that binds you to this world. Lillian's eyes widened. "You mean, erase it?" The keeper inclined its head. "Forget. Surrender. Proceed." Marcus took a step forward. "And if we refuse?" The keeper's form darkened, its presence growing more oppressive. "Then you will remain here. Forever." A long silence followed. Elena exchanged uneasy glances with the others. Each of them understood what was at stake. Memories defined them, shaped their identities, their fears, their hopes. To lose one was to lose a piece of themselves. But to stay meant something far worse. Lillian was the first to step forward. She hesitated only briefly before reaching for the dagger. The moment her fingers closed around the hilt, the chamber shuddered. A wave of heat surged through her body, followed by a cold, numbing sensation that spread from her fingertips to her core. Then, her knees buckled. Elena caught her before she hit the ground. Lillian. What happened? Lillian's eyes were unfocused, her breathing shallow. I don't remember. Daniel knelt beside her. Don't remember what? Lillian blinked rapidly, confusion etched across her face. I don't know. I can't, my mind is blank. Marcus's voice was tight. She gave up a memory. Elena's stomach twisted. Which one? Lillian shook her head. I don't know. I can't remember. The keeper regarded them solemnly. One has passed. 3 remain. Daniel swallowed hard. We don't have a choice. One by one, they stepped forward. Daniel took the dagger next. The moment he touched it, his body jerked as if struck by an unseen force. His breathing hitched, his pupils dilated, and then he collapsed. Elena caught him just as he began to fall. His eyes were wide with terror. I can't remember why I came here. I don't know who I am. Elena's heart pounded. You're Daniel. You're our friend. Daniel blinked. Friend? Marcus took the dagger last. The effect was immediate. He staggered, clutching his head as if in pain. When he looked up, his expression was blank. I don't know who I am. Elena was the last to remain. She stared at the dagger, her pulse hammering in her ears. Could she do this? Could she give up a piece of herself to survive? The keeper's voice was patient. Time is fleeting. Choose. Elena took a deep breath and reached for the blade. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 8. The memory taken. Elena's fingers brushed the cold metal of the dagger. The moment she touched it, a shockwave of heat and ice coursed through her body. Her vision blurred, the chamber around her warping and twisting as if reality itself was unraveling. Sounds became distorted, laughter turned into screams, voices became echoes of themselves. Then, the memories began to fade. Images flashed before her eyes, fragments of her life, moments she had cherished, moments she had feared. Childhood laughter, summer days spent with friends, the sting of heartbreak, the joy of graduation. Faces blurred, names slipped from her grasp like sand through her fingers. She gasped, trying to hold on, but the force pulling at her mind was relentless. And then, she saw him. The boy with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. His smile was warm, his laughter infectious. He had been her first love, the one who had promised to always be there. But now, his name escaped her. The memory unraveled before her eyes. She was sitting in a hospital room, holding his hand. His skin was pale, his breathing labored. Machines beeped around them, their rhythmic sounds the only indication that time was still moving. "I'll be okay," he had whispered. But he hadn't been. He had slipped away in the middle of the night, leaving her alone with nothing but grief and guilt. And now, even that was being taken from her. The pain of losing him, the sorrow that had shaped her for years, the ache that never truly went away, it was all vanishing. Elena screamed. The sound tore from her throat, raw and desperate. And then, everything went black. Underscore 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 underscore. When she opened her eyes, the chamber was gone. She was standing in the hallway of the house, the air thick with the scent of damp wood and decay. The others were beside her, Daniel, Lillian, Marcus, each of them disoriented, confused. Lillian looked at her, eyes wide. "Elena?" Elena met her gaze. "I don't remember," Lillian whispered. "I don't remember anything." Daniel rubbed his temples. "I feel like something's missing." Marcus stared at his hands, as if trying to recall who he was. Elena swallowed hard. "We gave up something." They all felt it, the absence, the hollow space where something used to be. None of them could remember exactly what had been taken, but they all knew it had been important. Lillian's voice trembled. "Why can't we remember?" Daniel shook his head. "Because we traded it." Elena clenched her fists. "We traded ourselves." A deep, resonant hum vibrated through the walls, as if the house itself was acknowledging their realization. Then, the lights flickered. And the hallway changed. The walls stretched, elongating into impossible distances. Doors appeared where there had been none before. The floor beneath them rippled like water, reflecting distorted versions of their faces. The house was shifting again. Lillian took a hesitant step forward. "What now?" Elena exhaled slowly. "We keep going." There was no other choice. They moved deeper into the house, following corridors that twisted into infinity. The air grew heavier with each step, thick with the scent of something old and forgotten. The walls pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Then, they reached the door. It was different from the others, taller, darker, its surface adorned with intricate carvings that resembled veins. At its center, a single symbol burned with an eerie glow. The mark of mile marker 666. Daniel hesitated. "What's behind it?" Elena placed a hand on the door. "Answers." The moment her fingers touched the surface, the symbol flared to life. The door swung open. And the house screamed. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 9. The Heart of the Path. The scream echoed through the house like 1,000 voices wailing in unison. It was not a sound, it was a presence, a force that clawed at their minds, threatening to tear them apart from the inside. Elena staggered back, clutching her head as the scream reverberated through her skull. The others fell to their knees, writhing in agony as the sound pierced through them like shards of broken glass. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the scream stopped. Silence. Complete and absolute. The air was thick with the remnants of the sound, lingering like the aftershock of an earthquake. The door remained open, its dark surface pulsing with an unnatural rhythm, as if the house itself was breathing. Elena forced herself to her feet. "We have to go in." Daniel groaned, wiping blood from his nose. "You're insane." Lillian's voice was hoarse. "There's no other way." Marcus exhaled sharply, then nodded. "Let's end this." Together, they stepped through the threshold. The room beyond was unlike anything they had encountered before. It was vast, stretching into infinite darkness, its boundaries undefined. The walls, if they could be called that, seemed to shift and ripple like liquid shadow. The floor was smooth, reflective, and utterly devoid of color. At the center of the room stood something that made their blood run cold. A pedestal. Resting atop it was a mirror, tall, ornate, its frame carved with the same twisted symbols they had seen throughout the house. But this mirror was different. It did not reflect them. Instead, it showed nothing. Just an empty void, a gaping abyss that seemed to stare back at them. Elena stepped forward cautiously. "What is this?" The mirror responded. A ripple passed across its surface, distorting the emptiness within. Then, slowly, images began to form. Memories. Fragments of their pasts, moments they had lived, moments they had lost. Elena saw herself as a child, laughing with her parents in a sunlit garden. Then, the image shifted, her mother crying, her father packing a suitcase, the sound of a door slamming shut. Lillian saw herself kneeling in a chapel, whispering prayers beneath stained glass windows. Then, the scene changed, her hands drenched in blood, her face streaked with tears, a priest lying motionless at her feet. Daniel saw himself walking through a crowded city street, smiling at strangers. Then, the image twisted, he was running, chased by figures in black robes, screaming as fire consumed the buildings around him. Marcus saw himself standing on a battlefield, gun in hand, soldiers falling around him. Then, the scene shifted, he was alone in a dark room, blood staining his hands, a woman's lifeless body at his feet. They all gasped, stumbling back from the mirror. Lillian clutched her chest. That wasn't real. That couldn't have been real. Elena shook her head. But it felt like it was. Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "What is this place?" A voice answered from the shadows. "This is the heart of the path." They turned. The keeper of the path stood at the edge of the room, its form flickering between solid and smoke. Behind it, the walls pulsed with a slow, rhythmic beat. The keeper stepped forward, raising one clawed hand toward the mirror. "This is where all paths converge. Where all truths are revealed." Elena's breath caught. "Truths about what?" The keeper tilted its head. "About you." Daniel took an uncertain step back. "I don't understand." The keeper gestured toward the mirror. "You have sacrificed pieces of yourselves to reach this place. But the path demands more. It demands everything." Lillian's voice trembled. "What does that mean?" The keeper's form darkened. "You must confront the truth of who you are. The sins you have committed. The lies you have told. The selves you have buried." Marcus clenched his fists. We didn't ask for this. The keeper's voice was calm, unwavering. The path chose you. Elena's stomach twisted. Why us? The keeper stepped aside, revealing something behind it. A door. Unlike the others, this door was new, its surface pristine, untouched by time or decay. The keeper gestured toward it. The final choice awaits beyond this door. Step forward, and claim your fate. Daniel swallowed hard. And if we refuse? The keeper's form darkened further. Then you will remain here. Forever. Silence. The four of them exchanged uncertain glances. Then, Elena took a step forward. The others followed. One by one, they reached the door. Elena placed her hand on the handle. The moment she touched it, the mirror behind them shattered. Glass exploded outward in a violent burst, the shards hovering momentarily before dissolving into smoke. And then, the room shifted. The walls folded inward, collapsing into a vortex of darkness. The floor beneath them vanished, replaced by an endless void. They were falling. Falling into nothing. And then, light. Blinding, pure, consuming everything. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 10. The final choice. The light engulfed them, washing away the darkness, the fear, the pain. And then, silence. Absolute, profound silence. Elena opened her eyes. She was standing in a vast, white space. There were no walls, no ceiling, no discernible boundaries, just an endless expanse of blinding light. The others stood beside her, their expressions mirroring her own confusion. Lillian blinked rapidly. Where are we? Daniel looked around, his voice hoarse. I don't know. Marcus took a cautious step forward. It's like, we're in another dimension. Elena's pulse pounded in her ears. We're not dead. Lillian turned to her. How do you know? Elena swallowed hard. Because if we were, we wouldn't be here. A voice echoed through the space. You have reached the end of the path. They turned. Standing before them was the keeper of the path. But this time, it was different. Its form was no longer cloaked in shadows. Instead, it was radiant, its presence both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Its face, once a void, now bore features, sharp, ethereal, neither male nor female, but something beyond comprehension. Elena took a step forward. What is this place? The keeper's voice was calm, measured. This is the threshold. The point of no return. Daniel narrowed his eyes. What happens if we cross it? The keeper gestured toward the light stretching infinitely in all directions. You will return to the world you came from. But you will carry the burden of what you have seen. Lillian's voice trembled. And if we don't? The keeper's gaze was unwavering. Then you will remain here. Forever. Elena's heart pounded. Is this heaven? The keeper inclined its head. This is not heaven. Nor is it hell. This is the balance between the two. Marcus clenched his fists. So what are we supposed to do? The keeper stepped aside, revealing something behind it. A door. Unlike the others, this door was solid, its surface gleaming with an otherworldly glow. There were no handles, no locks, just a single symbol etched into its center. The mark of mile marker 666. Elena's breath caught. That's it. Lillian's voice was barely a whisper. The final choice. Daniel exhaled sharply. We either go through that door, or stay here forever. Elena looked at the others. We've come this far. We can't stop now. Lillian hesitated. But what if we forget again? What if we lose ourselves? Elena shook her head. We won't. Not this time. Daniel nodded slowly. Let's do it. One by one, they stepped forward. Elena reached out, placing her hand on the door. The moment she touched it, the light around them flared. And then, darkness. Underscore 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 underscore. They woke up in the car. Rain tapped gently against the windshield. The headlights illuminated the winding road ahead. The engine hummed steadily, as if nothing had ever gone wrong. Elena gasped, sitting up straight. They were back. Daniel blinked rapidly, rubbing his temples. What the hell? Lillian looked around, bewildered. We're alive. Marcus exhaled sharply. We made it. Elena turned to the others, her voice trembling. We remember. They all looked at each other, realization dawning in their eyes. They remembered everything. The road. The house. The keeper. The sacrifices. The truth. Elena's hands trembled. But how? Daniel shook his head. I don't know. But we're back. Lillian looked out the window. And we're still on the road. Elena followed her gaze. Outside, the fog had returned, curling around the trees like living tendrils. And just ahead, barely visible through the mist, stood a wooden sign. Mile marker 666. The paint had peeled, revealing rusted metal beneath. Moss covered the base, and deep scratches marred its surface, scratches that looked eerily like claw marks. Elena's stomach twisted. We're not out of this yet. Daniel swallowed hard. What do we do? Marcus tightened his grip on the steering wheel. We drive. Elena looked at him, eyes wide. Even after everything. Marcus met her gaze. We have to. Lillian's voice was barely a whisper. Because the road remembers. The headlights flickered once. Then, the engine sputtered. No, Elena whispered. The car lurched. The headlights died. Darkness swallowed them whole. And the whispers began again. You never left. The path is eternal. Welcome home. Underscore 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 underscore. Epilogue: The road remembers. The car was gone. In its place, the road stretched endlessly into the mist, winding through the ancient forest as if it had never known the presence of travelers. The trees stood silent, their gnarled branches twisted in unnatural shapes, their bark scarred with markings that no human hand had carved. A lone crow perched atop a rusted mile marker, its beady eyes fixed on the path ahead. Mile marker 666. The paint had peeled, revealing rusted metal beneath. Moss covered the base, and deep scratches marred its surface, scratches that looked eerily like claw marks. The wind howled through the valley, carrying with it the faintest whisper. They remember. And then, the fog thickened. Once more, the road waited. For the next traveler. For the next soul brave, or foolish, enough to follow it. And deep within the forest, something stirred. A presence. A hunger. A memory that refused to be forgotten. The road was never empty. It only waited. And soon, someone would walk it again.